Morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 198 of the Ask the Coach show, where PingSkills helps you improve your table tennis. The Jordan 198 was the car with which the Jordan Formula One team used to compete in the 1998 Formula One season. It was driven by 1996 world champion Damon Hill, who had moved from Arrows, and Ralph Schumacher, who was in his second season with the team. Hopefully after this show, you'll be improving as fast as a Formula One car. But we must talk about safety first. So for Throwback Thursday, we're going to discuss staying alive. In the questions, we'll talk about the position of your bat for blocking, the difficult skill of returning serve when people could still hide the ball, disguising spin, and hitting the ball down the line. I'm Jeff Plum. And as always, Super Coach Alois Rosario is here with me to answer your questions. Welcome, Alois.
Morning, Jeffrey. And yes, interesting fact, 198.
There you go. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Exactly.
Yes. Well, what happened on this day in history, Alois?
Oh, big one, Jeff. 1991. Hulk Hogan defeated The Undertaker to become the fourth WWF world champion.
That is huge. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Exactly. You know how much of a big wrestling fan I am?
Indeed. I don't think he really is. Anyway.
Brocky, you've got to be impressed, right? You've got to be impressed.
I think he will be. Yes. All right. Now, Alois, yesterday's PingSkills question of the day was who is the top 10 greatest table tennis players of all time?
Yeah, and we had quite a few responses. So we had Fabio said he jumped on pretty quickly and said Waldner, number 1, Wang Li Chin, number 2, and Ma Long, number 3. He said, very hard question, though. So many other amazing players one could mention. So, yeah, very true. So Waldner got lots of mentions. Ma Long got some mentions. Wang Li Chin got a lot of mentions. Eugene said Wang Li Chin, number 1, Ma Lin, number 2, and Waldner, number 3. Tomislav said Scherbeck, number 1, Primorac, number 2, and Waldner, number 3. Yes, maybe a little bit of bias there by the sounds of things, Tomislav. And Tim Barton said Forrest Gump, number 1, Bruce Lee, number 2, and Jesus Christ, number 3. Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, imagine they're pretty impressive table tennis players.
I bet, yeah. Now, which brings me to the point. Yeah, so there is a video on YouTube of Bruce Lee supposedly playing with nunchucks, which is all just a load of rubbish. So have a look at it.
Tell me that it's real for sure.
Have a look at it, and it's just all computer generated junk. I mean, come on, guys, can't believe that stuff.
Bruce Lee was amazing, man. It's a shame we just never got him to play against Panda.
We also had an interesting response on our blog from Glenn O'Day. So Glenn does a really interesting newsletter, and if any of you want to get access to that newsletter, maybe just let me know, because I'll get him to send you one. So his top 10, and really interesting. Number 1, Ichiro Ogimura, for creating the modern style of play.
We're really having trouble with you here, you've just cut out.
Okay, I've probably got too many things open. One moment. So Victor Barner, number 2.
Who was number 1?
Ogimura was number 1. Ichiro Ogimura. So he was ITTF president, but also he a great Japanese player, created the modern style of play. Barner, number 2, for taking table tennis from a game to an athletic sport, which is, very true. Then Angelika Rosianu for winning 30 World Championship medals and being Romania's women's champion for 21 years. Richard Bergman, number 4, winning 22 World Championship medals. Maria Medniansky for an incredible 28 World Championship medals, including 18 gold. Number 6, he just says Jan Ove Waldner, obviously. Number 7, Deng Ping for 14 world champion medals, including 9 gold and 4 Olympic gold medals. She was very, very impressive, Deng Ping. Wang Hao at number 8 for 2 Olympic golds in teams, 13 world championship medals, including 6 gold. And Zhang Zidong, who a Chinese player from the 60s, well, he says here for exchanging gifts with Glenn Cowan in 1971, which is very true, but also for winning 3 world titles in a row. And Ivor Montagu, number 10, said, not much of a player, but if it wasn't for him, you might be stacking shelves in Coles and I'd have nothing to write about. So, yeah, interesting top 10 from Glenn O'Day. You can see that on our blog, and you might go on there and make some comments about his top 10 there as well. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Get onto the blog and, yeah, have a look at those players and search them up. A lot of history there. So if you're interested in the history of the game, take a look at Glenn's post and do a bit of Googling on those players.
Yeah, so Glenn does, Glenn's a bit of a history buff with table tennis, and he, as I said, he writes a really interesting newsletter for a local club around here, the Melton Table Tennis Club or Association. And as I said, if you do want to get access to that, maybe you can even put a comment on the blog underneath Glenn's comments, and he might be able to hook you up.
Indeed. Excellent. All right. So moving on to the PingSkills question for today, it is, can table tennis become the most popular sport in the world? So jump onto our Facebook page or to our blog at pingskills.com and let us know if table tennis can become the most popular sport in the world. All right, Alois, it is Throwback Thursday, and today we're looking at a video called Staying Alive. We're not talking about the movie here. What are we talking about?
We certainly won't be doing the dancing, but yeah, staying alive is a really important concept or thing to think about when you're playing a game. So staying alive basically is making sure that you make every effort to stay in the point. I see so often players, like the ball might bounce on the net and they sort of, they almost complain about it before the ball's bounced a second time, rather than just really throwing themselves at it. Or what we often see is the ball, goes really wide and players don't really make an effort to just get their bat to it. I remember one of my coaches when I was young, John Williams, pretty eccentric sort of guy, pretty eccentric sort of coach. But one of the things that he used to always stress was, doesn't matter how, just get your bat, throw your arm, and just try to get a touch on the ball. And you'll be surprised how many times that ball goes back on the table and how many times you win the point just by doing that. So what happens is that, by doing that, firstly, your opponent thinks, oh, I've already won the point, and suddenly they've got to play another ball or another shot, and that can be quite off-putting, and that often throws them off their game. And like if you can just get a bat to it, if you can put a little bit of backspin on it, great. If you're away from the table defending, just get the ball on the table one more time, stay alive in the point, and you'll be really surprised how many of those points you win. And I suppose just following up on from that as well, those sort of points can often turn a game as well. I mean, if you make one of those points at 6-5 down and suddenly it's 6-all instead of 7-5, it's a big turnaround point, and suddenly your opponent starts to get some doubts in their own mind. So really work hard at in the matches at just making sure you get your bat to everything. Doesn't matter what, if you've got to dive, if you've got to just throw throw your arm out. Just get that ball back on the table. Stay alive. It's very important.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we've all played that sort of player who seems to just get that every ball back, and it does become frustrating. So you want to be that player, you know. I mean, firstly, try and attack, but if you get stuck on the defensive or you get out of position, don't give up. Just be that player that just gets that extra ball back, and it will make a big difference to your game. Yeah. Great
Yeah,
advice.
I have to say that Jeffrey was one of the best at that too. He was a groveler from way back. Just used to get everything back on the table. Very annoying, but you know,
thank you. I think.
But you know, I'm just going to blast through him next time I play him. Just
okay. Yeah, I look forward to it. All right. Mike D has jumped online and asked a question using the Google Q&A app. So thank you, Mike. He says, the advice you gave me on blocking slow loops has helped. I have another question. I hold the paddle around the 3 o'clock position for the backhand as the ball nears my body. I noticed that when you hold the paddle, it's at the 12 o'clock position. So which is better, Alois? How should you have the bat when you're blocking?
Yes, so you can do either. I think for just a bit more safety and control, this can be better.
So holding the bat straight up, with the bat pointing up
at
the 12 o'clock.
At the 12 o'clock for our podcasters. But holding the bat at the 3 o'clock, so your bat's side on, is a little bit more effective, and you're also able to adapt to more. So by the bat being sideways, you can then just put a little bit of topspin on the ball, or you can, if you've got a little bit more time, you know, so maybe the ball comes through a little bit slower, you can swing through a little bit further as well. So it can be a much more accommodating sort of position to start your block from. The 12 o'clock position is a little bit safer though. So you're not using as much wrist, and there's not as much action, and you're hitting the ball from a little bit higher as well, because your bat's up high, you're hitting the ball from higher, and you've got a more direct line to the table. So yeah, so two different ways of doing it. But I mean, again, that doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, this is the way you do it, or this is the way you do it. Just think about what suits you in that particular situation. If you are defending a lot, and you know they're playing some good strong top spins at you, then maybe the 12 o'clock position is good. If they're putting a bit of variation on it, then the 3 o'clock position can be good, because you can adapt to block or to topspin.
Yeah, so if someone's starting out, Alois, and you're teaching them the block, is it something you focus on at all?
I like to start them at the 3 o'clock position, because again, it's just an extension of all of the other backhand strokes, or the other forehand strokes as well with the forehand. So
right,
yeah, by starting in that 3 o'clock, you can then move on to the counter hit or the top spin.
Perfect, excellent. All right, great question, Mike. And Victory has been watching this show, Alois. He says, I didn't know you were a wrestling fan. So there you go.
Neither did I.
All right. Now, Eugene says, I am having real trouble returning a serve. Not that I'm not used to the spin, but he usually serves long, fast, and deep into my backhand, and it makes me play an awkward shot. So what can Eugene do here, Alois?
Yeah. So Eugene, this is a really common problem, especially when players are developing, because often your backhand topspin isn't as strong as your forehand topspin. And so a long, fast serve into your backhand can be effective. So long term, you need to really think about developing your backhand topspin again, especially if you develop your backhand topspin against backspin. That's the stroke that you want to develop and learn to try to combat that type of serve. Short term though, I mean, there's a couple of options. One is, you know, you can run around and play your forehand, but Eugene, in your extended question, you also said that, you know, you try that and then the guy blocks it down to your forehand corner and you're caught out of position. And that's what is going to happen a little bit. Try to, it's a little bit related to what we talked about earlier, the staying alive. The first thing is make sure you get that ball back on the table. If you're not putting that ball back on the table, then they just gain confidence and they just start serving long and into your backhand and then they're just gaining that, point after point. So firstly, get the ball back on the table. I don't care how. So if you've got to go back and lob the ball onto the table, maybe that's great. At least they've then got to play one more ball. The worst thing you can do in a match situation, in a match that you're really trying to win, is to just give them point after point with your mistakes. So firstly, get the ball on the table. As an intermediate step, just think about when you're playing that stroke, just lifting it with lots of topspin, fairly high over the net, give it lots of clearance, and then it won't matter too much. So you said you don't have too much problem with the spin, but just give it more clearance over the net so it's a safer shot. So, rather than just lobbing it back, just start to put a little bit of topspin on the ball and nice and high over the net. But and eventually you'll start to get that stroke better, and it won't be an issue.
Great, yeah. So long term, work on developing the backhand topspin, and I guess once you've got that better, you can even get someone to serve that serve to you over and over, and just work on practicing that particular serve.
Yeah, I was just watching the final of the World Junior Teams Championship, and I have to say it was even happening in that match. So Zhu Fei, the Chinese kid, was playing Minha Huang from Korea, and Minha in the first game was giving Zhu Fei a few problems there. So Zhu Fei's a penhold player, and he was using the reverse backhand there, and was having a few problems with it. I mean, he's obviously a developed player, and has that stroke in his arsenal, but he had some problems first, and then he just started to play it a little bit safer, started to just spin that ball back on the table, and then gain confidence. And by the end of the match, he was just ripping backhands as well. But yeah, that's a good principle to start to think about.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, make sure you watch some of these top matches and even the World Junior Championships on ITTV, the ITTF's streaming channel. It's great to learn from these players. And you can.
So the teams have just finished. So China, no surprise, took both the boys and the girls teams championships. They now move into the singles. So they've already started some mixed doubles last night and yesterday. And they'll be moving into the singles fairly soon. So yeah, get on there and have a look. Some really, some top players, obviously, some top table tennis. And I think I said a few days ago, it's probably a little bit more real. Watching the top Chinese players, it almost becomes like, wow, that's just out of this world. These guys, sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes, they are getting caught on their backhand side. So yeah, give it a watch.
Indeed. All right. Yap is asking a question, Alois. Yap says, I'm curious about how you return serves before 2000 when people could hide the serve. How did people manage?
Yeah. Now when you look back, you think, wow, like really? But players just adapt to what they are presented with. By not being able to see the contact, players used to watch the swing and the motion, and like even that sort of action can give you some information as to what type of ball spins on the ball. But then also just really watching the ball carefully in flight as it's coming towards you to see is the ball curving a little bit more, is it dipping more? So if there's more topspin, the ball will dip quicker. If there's more backspin, the ball will tend to float through a little bit more. So all those sorts of clues are things that you just start to pick up because you're forced to, because you can't see the contact and you're forced to do that. And I think you're right. When the rule changed, players, I suppose, then rely on the watching the contact more, and you tend to forget, or you don't particularly pay attention to those other aspects that are going to give you some clues as well. So that's what used to happen. I mean, I'd have to the service return rate, probably hasn't changed a great deal. It would be interesting to see some stats on it. It would have improved a bit, but not markedly. Not like you'd think. They used to miss 5 out of 20 returns. Now they're missing 0 out of 20. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting, Alois. And with all the controversy about the service rule, I actually think it's worth thinking about just getting rid of all the complications and saying people are allowed to hide the ball, because I think people will get used to it and people will still be able to return the serve. Not sure it is the answer, but it's definitely worth some consideration.
Yeah, that's right. And a similar thing happened, with the two colors. So long time ago, you used to be able to use black or red on both sides, so you could have whatever colors. Basically, there wasn't the stipulation of having red and black. So players used to have the same color, used to have anti-spin and inverted, used to change, used to twiddle during the stroke, during the points, do this and this, and you just adapted. You tended to just watch that ball, get your information from what was happening when the ball hit the bat. So yeah, you just adapt.
Indeed. All right. Let's move on to a question from Ed, who's wondering about our masterclass on disguising spin, Alois. And Ed asks, how do you alter the angle of your bat with your wrist or your arm? Do you want to elaborate on this?
Yeah, so Ed sent me a comment on the disguising spin forum, but then he also sent me a bit of a video just to explain what he was talking about. So what Ed was saying is that should you, when you're playing your strokes and changing the angle, you use just your wrist to change the angle, or should you use your whole arm, so here and here, to change your angle? So keeping this quite still, so almost a rod through there. So keeping that still here and here to change the angle, or change the angle here and here with your strokes. So Ed, firstly, I think this comes in stages. So when you're starting out, definitely don't use too much wrist to change your angle, because it's hard for the brain to understand exactly where your hand is and where the angle is to start off with. So initially, I think it's really good to just keep all this quite still. So when you're learning, it's almost like this is one piece. So it's here or here to change the angle of your racket, this or this or this, and do it that way. So you're not using your wrist much at all. But as you progress, you will start to use your wrist much, much more to change the angle. As you start to get better perception of where your hand is and where your bat is, you will definitely use your bat much, much more. So you'll see, if you watch the top players now, when they're returning serve, so for the short forehand, they will even do this. So it's hard to see that angle there, but yeah, so their bat's almost at that angle there. I find that when I'm doing that, I'll even take this thumb off to basically just use these fingers here to control the wrist and to push the ball back there. So using a lot of wrist, a lot of fingers, and a lot of feel from there as well, as you start to progress and advance your skills as well. So yes, so initially this is good. Just keep it all nice and still there and there, or there and there. But then as you progress, you can certainly start to change the direction with use of the wrist down the line or cross court here and here.
Excellent explanation. And that makes a lot of sense, Alois. Yeah, keep it simple to start with, and then as you get more skill, you can develop. And like you said, you do see the players at the top of their game, top of the world, using a lot of wrist. But yeah, start simple and progress. Great question, Ed. All right. Rex says, I'm a lefty and I've learned to do a forehand slam or some of one, and I can hit it from the left side to the right corner, but I can't do the same to the left side of the table. So I think, yeah, he's having trouble varying where he's hitting his smashes. Alois, what is the answer?
Yeah, so this is really related to Ed's question. So initially what you need to be doing is just changing the position of your body. So if you're hitting the ball across there, so what he's saying is that he can play that ball across court pretty easily, but he can't play that one down the line. So to play that ball down the line, there's two things that you can do. One is turn yourself more so that then you're hitting the ball later. So if I hit the ball early, this is the angle of my racket, the ball is going to go over there. If I hit the ball a little bit later, that's the angle of my racket. Now the ball's going there. So doing the same stroke, bang, bang. If I hit it here, it's going there. If I hit it here, it's going down there. So just waiting a little bit longer will help you to get that ball down the line. Again, though, as you start to progress, you can start to utilize your wrist a little bit more. So instead of doing this, you can do this to get that ball down the line. That's going to be a little bit more deceptive for your opponent to try and track where that ball's going. But it's a little bit harder for you. So it becomes more of a riskier stroke because you are using more wrist in that stroke. So there and there. But initially, Rex utilized the turn and the waiting with hitting that ball later to get that ball down the line.
Excellent. Thanks for the question, Rex. And lastly, Alois, Brocky, our resident wrestling fan, also known as Victory, has asked, how can I attack a long, heavy side spin serve? Will a top spin help me?
Yeah, definitely. So if it's long, the first thing we need to think about is making the top spin. So if you find that the ball's coming into you with whatever spin it is, if you can brush that ball really fast and fine, then the ball is going to take on its own direction and its own spin. So the ball's spinning here, and then you're going to go bang and just really brush it fast. I'll do it this way. Brush it really fast. So now the ball is going to start to spin in the direction that you want it to. So yeah, definitely top spin will help in that situation.
Yeah, certainly. And as Alois said, for everyone out there, any long serve, your long-term goal is to be able to top spin that serve. So work on your top spin strokes. Excellent. Well, Alois, that wraps up show 198. Only 2 more till show 200. Getting pretty excited. Make sure you go to pingskills.com if you're listening and sign up for our free membership where you can get access to our free newsletter, all our strokes and techniques videos, plus ask questions. It's really good. So get to pingskills.com. And thank you all for watching. And thank you, Alois.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And we will see you tomorrow, Friday morning. Oh, Friday tomorrow, Jeff. Friday. What does that mean?
Friday Funnies. Can't wait. It's going to be huge. Everyone's going to be laughing. Stay tuned. We will see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye.